there is a story that capitalism tells about itself. It goes like this. Competition is the engine of progress. The best product wins. The best company rises. And if a business becomes too powerful, the market corrects itself, new competitors emerge, and the cycle continues. It is a clean story. It is a logical story, and for certain periods in certain markets, it even has some truth to it. But here's what the story leaves out. Some companies don't just win the competition. They end it. They reach a point of dominance so absolute, so structurally embedded, so legally fortified that competition doesn't just lose, it becomes impossible. And the mechanisms they used to get there were not always faster innovation or better products. They were acquisitions designed to eliminate threats before they became rivals. They were pricing strategies designed to bleed competitors dry. They were lobbying campaigns designed to write the rules of the game in their own favor. And in several cases, they were actions that courts in multiple countries eventually ruled were illegal, after the damage was already done and the dominance was already permanent. Welcome to Mizora, the channel that exists to show you how money and power actually work, not the version from the economics textbook, the version that's been running in the background your entire life, shaping the prices you pay, the choices you have, and the companies that exist for you to choose between. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the most powerful monopolies in history crushed their competition, what tactics they used that you were never supposed to notice, and what it tells you about the economy you actually live in. Let's get into it. Number 1, Standard Oil and the invention of the modern monopoly. To understand every monopoly that came after it, you have to understand Standard Oil. Because Standard Oil didn't just become a monopoly. It wrote the playbook that every dominant company since has studied, consciously or not. John D. Rockefeller founded Standard Oil in 1870. By 1880, 10 years later, his company controlled approximately 90% of all oil refining in the United States, not through superior technology, not through a better product, through a method so systematic and so ruthless that it had no name when he invented it. Economists had to create new vocabulary to describe what he did. The first tactic was secret railroad rebates. Standard Oil negotiated private deals with railroad companies to transport its oil at rates far lower than what competitors paid. But Rockefeller went further. He negotiated for his competitors' shipping costs to be partially rebated back to him. Every time a rival shipped oil by rail, a portion of what they paid went directly to Standard Oil. His competitors were, without knowing it, subsidizing the company trying to destroy them. The second tactic was predatory pricing. When a competitor operated in a specific region, Standard Oil would flood that region with oil sold below cost, sometimes far below cost, until the competitor ran out of money and was forced to sell or close. Then Standard Oil would buy them, restore normal prices, and move on to the next target. Think of it like a chess player who doesn't try to win every piece. They just systematically eliminate every opponent who poses a threat, one region at a time, until the board is empty. By 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil to be broken into 34 separate companies. The breakup was supposed to restore competition. What actually happened was that Rockefeller, who owned shares in all 34 successor companies, became significantly richer as each independent company's stock price rose after the split. The monopoly was legally dismantled. The wealth it created was permanent. Number 2, Microsoft and the browser wars. In the mid-1990s, the internet was new, and a small company called Netscape had built the dominant web browser, Navigator, which was used by roughly 90% of internet users. Microsoft recognized something that Netscape's founders may not have fully appreciated. Whoever controlled the browser controlled the gateway to the internet. And whoever controlled the gateway controlled everything that came after. Microsoft's response was not to build a better browser. It was to make competition structurally impossible. Windows 95, installed on virtually every personal computer sold in America, began shipping with Internet Explorer pre-installed and integrated so deeply into the operating system that removing it was technically complex and practically invisible to most users. At the same time, Microsoft used its dominance in operating systems to pressure computer manufacturers, the companies that actually sold machines to consumers, to feature Internet Explorer prominently and exclude or minimize Netscape. The effect was not gradual. Netscape's market share collapsed from 90% to under 20% in roughly 3 years. Not because Internet Explorer was better. Most technology reviewers of the era considered Netscape superior. But because the machine you bought already had one browser on it, it worked. And switching required effort that most people would never make. The U.S. Department of Justice sued Microsoft in 1998 and won. The remedy, which Microsoft successfully appealed and softened, was largely toothless. Internet Explorer's dominance lasted another decade. Netscape ceased to exist as an independent company. The lesson the technology industry learned was not that this behavior was wrong, it was that it worked. Number 3, Amazon and the everything store that ate its suppliers. Amazon's dominance is so complete that it is difficult to describe it without numbers that feel implausible. It controls approximately 40% of all U.S. e-commerce. Its cloud computing division, AWS, powers an estimated 30% of the entire internet, including the infrastructure of many of its own competitors. And it has achieved this through a strategy that has been called, by economists who study it, a masterclass in using scale as a weapon. Here is a pattern that repeated itself across dozens of product categories. A small company sells a successful product on Amazon's marketplace. Amazon's algorithm identifies it as a high-margin, high-demand item. Amazon then creates its own version, sold under an Amazon Basics or private label brand, and positions it directly below the original in search results, priced slightly lower, with prime shipping advantages that third-party sellers cannot easily match. The original company, which built the market for the product, is now competing for visibility on a platform owned by its primary competitor, using data about its own sales performance that it cannot access, but Amazon can. Several U.S. congressional investigations documented this pattern across product categories from batteries to phone chargers to baby wipes. Amazon disputed the characterization in each case. The investigations did not result in structural changes to Amazon's business. The private label products remain, the marketplace sellers who compete with them remain, and the dynamic between them, the original innovator funding the platform that studies and replicates them, remains the defining economic relationship of modern e-commerce. Number 4, Google and the search engine that became the internet's front door. There is a statistic so consistent that it has held for over a decade across virtually every country and every device. Google processes between 90 and 93% of all internet searches globally. Not 50%, not 70%, 93%. For all practical purposes, for most of the world, Google and internet search are not two different things. They are the same thing. The mechanism behind this dominance is something economists call default positioning, and it operates on a principle as simple as it is powerful. Most people never change default settings. Google pays Apple an estimated $15 to $20 billion per year to be the default search engine on every iPhone and every Safari browser in the world. It pays similar fees to other device manufacturers and browser developers. The result is that when a new phone is activated, when a new laptop is set up, when a new browser is opened, Google is already there, already selected, already running. The U.S. Department of Justice filed an antitrust lawsuit against Google in 2020, specifically targeting these default agreements. In 2024, a federal judge ruled that Google had illegally maintained its search monopoly through these payments. The remedy is still being determined. In the meantime, Google's search market share has not meaningfully declined. The infrastructure of default is so deeply embedded in the hardware billions of people use every day that a legal ruling, even a successful one, may take years to translate into actual behavioral change among users who have never consciously chosen their search engine and have no strong reason to do so now. Number 5, De Beers and the diamond monopoly that invented desire. Diamonds are, by almost every objective measure, not particularly rare. The Earth produces them in significant quantities. Industrial applications consume enormous amounts annually. And yet the retail price of a diamond, specifically the kind of diamond sold as an engagement ring, remains among the highest price per gram of any consumer product on Earth. And the reason for this has nothing to do with geology and almost everything to do with one of the most sophisticated supply control operations in commercial history. De Beers, the South African mining conglomerate, controlled at its peak over 80% of the global diamond supply. But controlling supply alone is not enough to sustain artificially high prices. What De Beers understood, and executed with extraordinary discipline for most of the 20th century, was that price is ultimately a function of perceived value, and perceived value can be manufactured. The campaign it launched in 1947 produced the phrase, "A diamond is forever," and embedded the idea that an engagement ring without a diamond was not fully an engagement ring. It created a social norm, then sold the product that fulfilled it. The monopoly also operated a physical supply control mechanism of almost theatrical sophistication. Diamond buyers, called sight holders, were invited to London periodically to purchase pre-sorted boxes of diamonds at prices set by De Beers. They could accept or refuse. If they refused, they were not invited back. If they were found to be sourcing diamonds from outside De Beers' network, they were removed from the system. The entire global diamond trade, for decades, flowed through a single room in London, where the terms were set by one company and were not negotiable. It was the most successful cartel in the history of consumer goods, and it worked not primarily through coercion, but through making the alternative economically suicidal. Number 6, Ticketmaster and the live event chokehold. If you have bought a ticket to a concert, a sports event, or any major live performance in the last 30 years, you have almost certainly used Ticketmaster. And if you use Ticketmaster, you have almost certainly paid service fees that were, depending on the event, between 25% and 78% of the face value of the ticket, not the ticket price. On top of the ticket price, these fees, described variously as service fees, facility charges, order processing fees, and delivery fees, are the primary profit engine of a company that has systematically made itself impossible to avoid. The mechanism behind Ticketmaster's dominance is a series of exclusive venue contracts. Ticketmaster signs long-term exclusive deals with arenas, stadiums, and concert halls, giving it the sole right to sell tickets for events at those venues. Artists and promoters who want access to those venues, which are often the only venues large enough for their tours, must use Ticketmaster. Consumers who want to attend events at those venues have no alternative. The monopoly is not on ticketing in the abstract. It is on access to specific physical spaces where specific events happen. In 2010, Ticketmaster merged with Live Nation, the world's largest concert promoter and the company that manages the touring careers of many of the world's biggest artists. The Department of Justice approved the merger with conditions. The conditions were widely regarded by antitrust experts as inadequate. The combined entity now controls ticketing, venue management, artist promotion, and tour financing across the live entertainment industry simultaneously. In 2024, the DOJ filed a lawsuit to break up Live Nation Entertainment. The case is ongoing. The fees remain. Now, I want you to notice something about every company on this list. None of them became a monopoly simply by being the best. Standard Oil used secret payments. Microsoft used default placement. Amazon used its competitors' own data against them. Google pays billions to be the option you never consciously chose. De Beers controlled supply and manufactured desire. Ticketmaster locked up the physical venues and then bought the promoters too. Every single one of them found a structural lever, a choke point in the system, and pulled it hard enough that competition became structurally impossible rather than merely difficult. This is the most important insight from this video, and it is one that almost no one teaches explicitly. The difference between a very successful company and a monopoly is not a matter of degree. It is a matter of strategy. A very successful company wins in the market. A monopoly changes the conditions of the market so that winning becomes the only available outcome. One competes. The other engineers a situation in which competition cannot exist. And here's the uncomfortable implication. Every time you pay a service fee on a concert ticket you had no choice but to buy. Every time your phone searches Google because you never changed the default. Every time you buy a product on Amazon that is a replica of a smaller company's original idea, you are not experiencing the free market. You are experiencing the aftermath of a strategy. And the distance between that strategy and where you're sitting right now is a lot shorter than most people realize. In the next video, I'm going to show you the other side of this equation, The markets that governments have tried to destroy, banned, prosecuted, and legislated against. And that survived anyway, growing larger and more profitable precisely because of the opposition. You are not going to want to miss that one. Subscribe if you haven't yet. It costs you nothing, and it's the only way to make sure these videos keep finding you. The world makes a lot more sense when you know where to look. I'm Mizora. I'm Kay. See you in the next one.